Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Tech Whisperers podcast. Really excited. You can tell I'm not in my office today. We're actually at the Terranea Resort, Southern California, at the CIO 100 Awards, celebrating the best CIOs on the planet. And joining me today is somebody who is a good friend. We've been wanting to do this for a long time, and he's here receiving an award. And so my friend today, Cisco Sanchez, CIO of Qualcomm. And one of the things that Cisco does better than anybody is knowing what matters, being laser focused on those things that matter, getting his team and his company wrapped around those things. So Cisco, welcome.
Thank you, Dan. It truly is a pleasure and an honor. We have been trying to do this for a number of years. I'm glad we finally got to do this. I really have.
Absolutely. And you know, if you can see it here in the mic, I want to keep you hydrated. So from our team, the Tech Whisperers Yeti. So
sweet. Very nice.
For you.
Thank you very much.
Want to keep you good and healthy, right?
Thanks. I appreciate this.
Energy going on there. But so CIO 100 award, big deal. Congratulations, you and your 2,500 colleagues. Tell us about the award. I mean, this is about innovation, and what did you guys win the award for?
Yeah, so part of the reason for winning the award is we were pushing the boundaries on how we do the high performance computing. And so if you think about in our industry, for the silicon that we build chips that allow for modem and Wi-Fi and 5G explosion. And so we do a lot of really cool high performing chips. But to do that, you need something to be able to work on. And so we built this really highly performance compute grid that we call it, that allows for us to innovate at speed and scale. But when you do a job and say, I want to put it into the grid to allow it to optimize, what typically we see is underutilization or overutilization. And so we use a lot of AI, ML techniques to help drive down the cost, identify when those low periods are, accelerate those so you get more chip design out faster than our competition. If you think about what we do, there's probably 2 or 3 players that have as big of a grid as we do. And you can name them off. There's silicon players. Ours is probably number 2 or number 3. So it's this massive size. So we have to be very conscientious of how we utilize that compute grid to ensure you can optimize not just for speed of value, but also optimize for the engineers so you can see the jobs turn faster and you get value back from an employment, self-satisfaction, but also innovation.
Very cool. So before Qualcomm, amazing run at FedEx, 20-year run at FedEx. And tomorrow we're going to have a leadership masterclass. And opening will be Rob Carter, your former mentor. You're a mentor, right? And then you're closing it at the end of the day. Yeah. So just talk about that experience, kind of growing up and learn what you learned there.
Yeah, so I was at FedEx for 25 years. 25 years, yeah. I started as an intern with the company, and it was the greatest experience. It really was. When I first started there, FedEx was a smaller company, if you think back then, and I wanted to be able to do great things. And so I started as an intern in Colorado, and they put me into developing software, and loved it. I'm still a developer by nature, and so I was able to develop clearance applications, coded in C, C++, Unix, all scripting languages, Java, and it was a blast. A couple of the chief architects in that company started taking me under their wing and saying, "You're good at this. You should start looking at how the design starts to structure out, and why it matters, and how do you build scale and efficiencies, and look for resilience patterns, and think about the next thing that may come and ensure your design's right." And really strong architects at the company. And so Tom Hardman, Mary Contreras, or it was Mary White at the time, took me under their wing and started saying, here's how you should start thinking about how design looks like. And I love being an architect. And so you think of an architecture, you wouldn't build a home without a blueprint. You just wouldn't. Because you need to understand how the foundation works and how the weather patterns work. And that's what architecture was bringing to the table, of thinking about the whole life cycle of it. And so I went to architecture, started to build and design applications underneath Mary and Tom, then got introduced to Ross Thacker, another amazing architect. Chris was there, a bunch of cool architects that were just helping me to drive and understand it. Moved from there to help support Latin America. It was Latin America and Canada. It was called IT Americas. not the one in the middle, but the other two. And one of my great mentors, her name is Beth Galetti at the time, she took me under her wing and saying, you're going to develop clearance applications for Latin America and Canada, and make something happen and do great things. And I loved it. You got to work with the teams in Latin America. We built some really cool things. Went to Europe, was there in Europe for 4 years, and got an opportunity to work with a guy named Mike Foster, another great mentor. And he was helping me look at not just applications, but culture and values and rationalization and thinking about, challenge me in lots of different areas that you don't think about just technology, it's the other stuff. And he was challenging me how to be a better leader, a really good leader. And so went there for a while. I was there for 4 years. And then went to Memphis. Rob called me back and said, hey, you need to do the enterprise foundational services, so these big foundational things that can never, ever go down. And
no pressure.
No pressure. And everybody using them. And so we started building these applications out, and they started people adopting them. The power is when you build them, but people have to adopt them. And so we were building a bunch of them, and they were adopting as fast as we can create them. Then I went to FedEx Ground, was a CIO over there, and started building some great clearance applications, some hub applications, a lot of mobile applications, because we were trying to ensure that we created new experiences for our delivery drivers, some interactions with Walmart and Wayfair, some really cool stuff that we were doing. And now I'm at Qualcomm.
Well, I love to have you talk about Qualcomm. The story that you're running there now, you and the leadership team, can you talk about the revenue growth, the plans, the new markets? This is a story that's pretty exciting. This, as you would say, this matters. Qualcomm matters.
Yeah, Qualcomm matters.
And tech within tech, right, is how you describe it.
And I'm customer number 0 too. So for those that don't know who Qualcomm is, if you have a phone, if you have a Wi-Fi router, if you like 5G, it's probably Qualcomm in your phone. Probably the Qualcomm is in everything that you love. It really is. And so the reason I went to Qualcomm was because of that journey of, we're going from creating mobile handsets to starting to allow for us to have that same technology in a lot of other spaces. IoT and auto, AI continuation. And so that was the motivation. There was also a new CEO coming in, Cristiano was coming in, a new CFO was coming in, a new general counsel, the new CMO was there, and now the new CIO. And so part of it was super exciting because we get to form what could be the making of something amazing, and it's starting to be amazing.
Right.
And so for Qualcomm, it's not, we're focusing on not just the handset. So if you think about like what's in your phone, it has great Wi-Fi access, it has connectivity, it responds quickly, it has Bluetooth, but you need those same type of characteristics in the Tesla-like cars, right? Where everybody's more or less creating a car on wheels. Car on wheels, it's digitized. And so all of that functionality is required at low power, high speeds, and creating. And so the journey that we're being on is pivoting from one discipline to multiple disciplines. And if you think about what we do, we're a $44 billion company tracking, and our goal is to get to $100 billion. And if you look at the TAM, total addressable market, it's just a fraction of that. And so there's a lot of opportunity that we can go and do if it's in the new compute space that we're going after. So think of your laptop compute space, or if it's in your car, if it's in your IoT, industrial, VR, XR, and now the AI on edge. We're prime and fit for that. But to do that, we have to readjust who we are, replan how we build, not just think about the bag of chips that we would create, but the ability from going from a hardware to a software to subscriptions, to allow for that whole ecosystem to create. And to be honest, that's my discipline. This is what I do. This is what makes me happy. I'm not a run guy. I'm a transformation person. And this transformation is important for the world, not just for Qualcomm. I think for the world, to allow for new capabilities to exist.
Yeah. And you mentioned too, but the business model going from a model of working with a few large customers, now you're working with.
Yeah, so there was an interesting, when I first got there, I told the team, we had 5 customers, and I was corrected. They said, no, we have 7. And I said, doesn't really matter. If it's 5 customers, 7 customers, 12 customers, when you work with a handset companies, and you can name them off on your hand, you can do white glove activity with them. You can. And what we design, it doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to white glove it and help them implement the model. But when you go from 5 to 7 customers to, let's just say, 1,000 in auto, 1 million in IoT, your software has to scale differently. It has to have more self-service. It has to have ability to take your SDK and use it effectively without any white glove at all, because you can't scale the model. And so our journey has been, how do you scale the model that's different than what it was before, allowing for self-service, allow for more healing and easy to find documentation discovery that is important to allow for the next cool game to be created on your platform. And I think that's what's the exciting part of this whole journey is there's so much we can do. And the pivot is, deliver for the masses, not just for the ones that we white glove.
Well, I want everybody to watch this company because you joined, 18 months or so ago, 30 some odd, 33 billion, 44 now, and the plan to get to 100 is real.
That's real.
That's exciting.
It's real. Well, and I think if you, even with the economic conditions that we're all under, if you look at the spaces that could be addressable, and I know that the compute space is kind of a crowded space. So you have an Intel's, you have AMD, and you have Apple. We're entering that market, which we think is a good compute to allow for 5G to be enabled and ARM processing, and we believe we can be a great contender. Speed, performance, acceleration that you haven't seen yet. And so this coming out. We think we're a great option for all of these auto providers that are going more digital, and we're in most cars. So it's a very good market. And now the IoT, which is massive, massive market, because what's the definition of IoT? Yeah, everything, and so in that space, if we can just tap into a little bit, the growth projection is amazing. And I believe, and this is not because I'm at Qualcomm, but I believe we have some of the best silicon ever. And so once you utilize low power, high speed efficiencies, once you create the ability for developers to grab onto that ecosystem, it's going to be like it's a wildfire everywhere.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This, you've got this ability to really hone in on what matters. I'm going to unpack some of these. There was Brian Moynihan, who's the Bank of America CEO, Q2 announcement recently. He, as CEO, came out and talked about how digital superiority matters. Now, we get that, right? But to hear a bank CEO say that and to have metrics around it, pretty staggering. So how do you set your company up to achieve digital superiority?
Yeah, this is the interesting part. So our company is digital. It's a tech company for tech. And so when I say I'm the customer zero, I mean it. If I don't take advantage of all of the great stuff we have and utilize it and then employ it to do something different, to accelerate value, capabilities, creativity, then I fail in my role as a CIO. And so to allow for us to be that digital transformation agent, digital powerhouse, it is looking at the world slightly different and saying, how should we take a go-to-market strategy, tilt it on its side and seeing what's important for the world? And so think about this. When we say everybody has to go to market, I'm going to market differently. But if you were to start to interact with the developers differently at a university or schools, to get them understanding of the technology and then tune it to make it even better and then accelerate something. Or if you had a profit share of how you create capabilities or you invite them into your ecosystem, very, very different.
Yeah.
So if you take all the big brands out there, your Netflix or Apple or those ecosystems saying, how do you make the best out of all of them to allow for something else to happen? By being customer zero, taking our technology and then using it in a different fashion. But the technology is the easiest part. It's the human behavior that's probably the hardest part. And so a lot of our journey has been illustrating the story, creating videos, telling that we're doing whiteboarding, talking about why we should be doing something different than a typical hardware company going into a software, and the journey and stacking and understanding the feature set. So it's a little bit more than selling it than versus doing it.
every one of these award-winning CIOs will tell you this is hard work, right? BCG tells us 70%, 70 of digital initiatives fail. So this is not for the faint of heart, right? And stakes are high, a lot of money at stake, a lot of risk. But you've got some unique partnerships going on internally that you're nurturing to build this out. And talk about the video some more. You've got different videos, right, for different audiences.
Yeah. So when I first got there, my goal was I called it "Don't jerk the wheel." What I meant by that was there's a lot of stuff that happens in a company because it's just supposed to be that way. Things happen, situations occur. There's financial implications. There's a risk. That's what's going on. There's a governance process. There's a leadership. And so my goal was understand it. Don't judge. Just be curious. And then after you understand it, at least be a little bit more judgy until you understand more. And then you can be more judgy. And so my goal was to be super curious. But then tell the story through the lens of the business partner that we're interacting with, not the lens of an IT person. I love IT. It's the best role out there, I believe. But if you can't pull in the business partner and tell them through the marketing lens or through a general manager's auto lens, you're not hitting the mark at all. Yeah. And so what we've done is we've created videos, whiteboarding to tell the story depending on where we want to head to. And think of it as almost like a cartoon drawing of here's current state, here's future state, and how do we want to track to make sure we get there in small chunks. One of the greatest mentors I had, CIO is Charlie Feld. He has this thought process that he breaks out and he does it in 3 years and he shows this chart. And so I've used that. But you still have to tell it to the lens of the business partner. And so my marketing CMO friend, Don McGuire, is great, but he understands why, and we both push for the same vision, which is important for us to kind of accelerate the journey.
Fantastic. On the program here, one of the cool things we do to unpack your superpowers is we go to people who know you very well, and they're going to ask you some questions. So let's listen in to our first question, see if you recognize this voice, and then have some fun with the question.
Okay.
CIO role is a high-stress job under any circumstances, but even more so in tough economic times when the demand far exceeds the supply and companies are under stress. How do you keep the team energetic and inspired when your own tank is drained every day?
That's Charlie Feld.
It's kind of funny. You just mentioned Charlie just a second ago.
Yeah, Charlie has been instrumental in my life, almost as a second father figure, and I mean that with the greatest love. He's really a good man. Cares about you as a person. Has driven, pushed, challenged, coached, guided, scolded at times when needed. But I think the question really has been set apart of how do you ensure, he has this great saying, I love it. He says, you have to look good on a horse. And I asked him, I said, Charlie, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, times sometimes are bad, but your teams are looking to understand how the leader's emotions are and how they feel about it. And if you can project a good positive spirit, they too will feel positive about the journey. And so when the tank is low, or when you're feeling a little bit down, or you want to continue the journey, know that you're going to have issues. These things are going to happen. Right. Nothing's perfect in this world, but how do you approach it? And so we can say, and have a little bit of an Eeyore syndrome and hate the world, or you can look at the positive side and say, okay, we got thrown a curveball. How do we adjust the pattern and focus on what matters? And maybe the plan is even better. And so he's always given me the advice of look at it from a lens of you're going to get stuff we don't like, but how do you adjust? And that makes a better leader.
Right.
And then the biggest thing is how do you project that value out to your team? Because they care, they're watching, they're trying to understand, and they pick up on everything. I mean, it's just like our kids. My kids will pick up on behaviors and like, what's wrong, Dad? And I don't do anything.
Right.
It's your teams are picking up on emotions and how you stance and what the words you use or don't use. And so the greatest things that we have is our team members by far. And so how do you project the journey for them so that they can feel jazzed about it, even in despite of uncertainties or some scary moments?
As you were describing the horse, I got a visual of George Washington. Remember the story? He's going back and forth in front of the battle line, in front of his troops. And when you do that, you end up taking some bullets, right? Yeah. I mean, you're out there.
Oh, well, but you're supposed to be out there for your team.
Yeah.
If you're hiding in the back and not taking and just watching them get defeated, and you're not part of the journey, I think there's going to be a little bit of less respect for you as a leader.
Charlie has seen you in different scenarios, different environments, and one of his great compliments of you, and it's a real Achilles in our profession, is you are incredible at selling your ideas. So any pointers, any tips on how, because you've got to communicate, keep your people on this journey, you've got your business peers, you've got customers.
I think part of selling the journey is you really have to understand that business. And understand it not from your lens, but from the business lens.
Yeah.
And the reason when you do that, when you understand the business, you can speak with understanding what it means to them, and how it feels, and why we have to change. And so I think selling it is some of the hardest and the greatest stuff is communication. And some people need to hear it 7 times. Some people need it in a written format. Some want it in verbal. Some need a video, some need sound and glitz and glam, but you need to understand the business, then you need to understand the audience of how you're going to be talking to this messaging to ensure that they can feel it and understand it. And it's okay to ask for help. Like, does this hit all cylinders for you, and how we want to drive the change? But I think it's really got to understand the business.
Yeah.
Really do.
Yeah.
I think, Ken Spangler, and I know you know Ken, he's a friend at FedEx. He talks about being a great IT person, being a great business person, you become a better IT person. And I think so too. I think once you understand the business, you can ensure that you're delivering the right value out of an IT shop.
Yeah. Charlie also talks about you in terms of you get complexity. Maybe it goes back to your architect days, but you get complexity, you get how that impacts scale and speed. He made reference, as only Charlie could, to I won't name them, but one of the major airlines, and how you grow from each $10 billion increment. It gets harder, right? And you're in the middle of this journey where you're going to go from 30 to 40 to 100. So any pointers? How do you think about leading an organization through complexity, scaling, speed, all that?
I think so. Maybe it is an architecture mindset. We had this slogan at the last place called ABCD. First 4 letters of the alphabet, kind of easy to remember. Right? A stood for architect, B stood for build, C stood for consume, and D stood for decommission. But
we don't do that very well, do we?
No. We either build and then have a bunch of stuff we never decommission. And so we had this ABCD slogan. But the first one is architect. And so what we've been understanding from a complexity is, if you understand the vision out from not just one project at a time, but a multi-project, multi-year, you can start to build the application properly. And so the architecture mindset is super important, because let's take something that we probably all know pretty well. When you build a home, you want to plant some pretty trees. And typically what happens is you'll plant the tree either too close to the home, or you don't understand how big it's going to grow, and it overgrows the area, and you immediately cut the tree off. That's architecture, understanding how the architecture should be laid out to ensure that you're never painting yourself in the corner. And if you do, you know how to work around it. Obfuscation layers, ensuring you can have scale, efficiencies, security. And so when you're looking at the big picture, you're not supposed to look at it a project at a time. You're supposed to look at the project and then the entirety of everything, and then back up. Say, okay, now how do we do this project? Because it may differ. And so I think for us, the journey will be not to create as much complexity. We'll probably create some. Understand where the long-term plan is, not one project at a time, but the whole thing. Challenge it with new ideas, new approaches, new characteristics to make the design better. Document it. Make sure you have a good solid enterprise architecture practice that you're trying to build out, so people can feed it, so it doesn't get just lost after you do the first implementation and it's not getting updated, because most of these applications we build these days last 10 years, 20 years sometimes.
Sure.
And so it matters on how you build.
Does matter. Made me think of, I'm a big fan of Yogi Berra. I love the Yogi Berra-isms. But there's one that I think that's actually misleading for our profession. And he would say, and only he could do it, when you come to the fork in the road, take it. That's pretty risky in this business, isn't it? I mean, you need to make sure that you're leading the organization down the right path, the right fork.
Agree.
Yeah.
I think there's Charlie Masters is. I'm sorry that I'm doing a lot of Charlies, but it's patterns. So I agree with take the fork in the road, but all along the journey before the fork starts, you have some pattern recognition of why one or the other is going to happen, why you should take something. And so I think as an IT profession, a lot of our peers have a good understanding of these patterns that are occurring, that something's triggering to allow us to think differently or do something differently. And take the path, but you're building up to it. You don't just show up and say, now which way? It's understanding what's the circumstances, what's the business environment, what's the economic conditions, what type of team do I have, where do I need to head to, and then you're going to take the right path. And so I think we start to almost, maybe unconsciously start to understand patterns faster. And that's probably the gift from the IT team, because we get to see a lot of it.
What a gift, yeah. You mentioned the ABCD decommission. I think something we don't do well in our profession is leading the hard conversation to help deprioritize, because we can't do everything, right? We can't do it well. So how do you have that conversation when this is a big idea for somebody?
Yeah, so there was two parts of this ABCD. The ABCD, architect, build, consume, decommission, was the IT version of it. On the flip side, because everything has two sides, on the flip side of it, we talked about what does a business partner have to do. And so the first part is awareness of the capabilities out there. That's A.
Okay.
B is business partnership. Who's your business partners? How they align. C is courage. Courage to do the right things. Courage to challenge. And then D is decisions we make. And the reason why it's so impactful is when we think about it from an IT lens, we're structured on build something, architect it, build it, consume it, and try to decommission something. The business partners need to also look at it from their lens, saying we have to have courage, that's C, and we have to have decisions we make because we don't want this to be laying around forever. And so part of it is selling why, how come, the better the stuff we get out of it, return on investments, the speed that we'll have, the maintenance that will drop, the security that's not going to be, that we don't have to worry about, and it's a better. And we're gonna have some really good business partners that help us turn that switch off and pull the lever, saying, "Yeah, let's kill it," and be with you because they understand both sides of the ABCDs.
Yeah, I love that. One of my other great Charlies, I've known Charlie for decades, so just think the world of him. He talked about early in his CIO tenure, we're going back to the 80s, 90s, right? He said back then, this is pre-internet, pre-cell phone. Imagine that, right?
Yeah, wow.
And he said, back then, we had time to sit and think and build relationships and strategize. The problem is we didn't have the technology to go do the cool stuff. Fast forward, he said, he empathizes with CIOs. He's like, all the technology we need, but no time to sit and think and build relationships. And how do you combat that whole time, all the things coming at you?
It's a really good question, and I agree. I mean, most of it's let's implement and create the next thing, and not so much discuss. This has to work for everybody in their own style. I'm an office person. I go to the office every day because I like the office. Could I work from home? Yeah, but I like going to the office partly because I get to see my business partners, and I get to engage with them. Not during the meeting of a meeting, but walking out of the meeting to talk about stuff, or seeing them down the hall and wandering, to have those crucial conversations about stuff that we should be talking about. Because you're running into deliver software, create a capability, do the next thing, and not strategizing on what should we do and how do you create it. And so a lot of it is creating the moments, but then also establishing, and I don't like this terminology, but establishing the right tables of people to ensure that we can organize and understand and make sure that we provide value our team, the capabilities, shareholders, but almost like, remember the King Arthur's round table he would have, and there was no head of the table, no head of table, but to allow for values to be achieved and created, because it's important. And I think you and I've talked about this before. There's two people that I believe get to see all the interaction. They go out to the company. The CFO, because they pay for it. Mm-hmm. Usually they see and help kind of write the check and cover it off. The IT person, CIO, because they have to implement it, turn it on, plug it in, secure it, support it. And so it is imperative in our duty to actually take it and understand that, to ensure we establish the right things that are for the company. And so there's Peter Parker saying, with great powers comes great responsibility. I think the IT person has great power. So you have to do the right thing, right? And if you don't, then you're missing the boat. So creating that strategic King Arthur table, establishing moments, creating the videos, establishing why, how come, being persistent because you're never going to win it all with the first battle, and then persistent again, and challenging the norms.
That's back to that courage, right? And I think most conversations I have with CIOs today, they bring up leadership courage and just how they're concerned about, as a profession, us not having that muscle tuned up. Speaking of muscle, you care very deeply about 2,500 people.
Oh, deeply.
In your organization. You get people, you invest in people. When we visited back in Pittsburgh years ago, we were talking about launching that leadership program in Pittsburgh. I think it took maybe 4 minutes before you said, I'm in.
Yeah.
So when you think about this journey, this time, this company, what's the muscle that your team's going to need to be able to lead this journey?
Energy, focus, understanding that we're going to have challenges, but to be able to adjust and navigate appropriately. When we launched the cohort, just talking to this, but just a sec, I think was so important is ensuring that we grow our team members so that they can become better than us, like by far. I don't want to stick in my job forever, but I want the companies I've been part of to thrive after I leave, not just like, whoa, what do we do now? And so if we invest in our team members and like properly invest, not just give them technical skill sets, but also the soft skill sets, understanding how you can have empathy and how you grow a team member and caring about them, then you're going to have better employees. And so it's the same thing in the dual-sided coin. One side is our technology capabilities, feature sets, understanding the business. The other side is a human aspect of how do you become a fit IT professional? And that doesn't mean like technology. It means care about your health. And what are you doing to make sure you take care of yourself? And are you enjoying your family life? And what's other stuff? Are you reading any science fiction books? And are you enjoying life? And care about that side too. Then they become a better professional. It's almost like a world-class athlete. And so we can start to create these world-class athletes. Then they can endure anything. And so as economic conditions come in, or a cyber incident, hopefully not for anybody, cyber incident comes in, or something else, they have the ability to endure whatever that challenge is. And so a lot of what we've been focusing on is, there is the what, but I super care about the how we do work, how it's exercised, because the work will change. But how you do it should be able to adjust for and say, all right, something new, we got it, right? And so I think it's enduring. I think it's that practice of, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. Ensure that you have enough energy to allow for the next part of the journey to be unfolded. Then I think our teams can thrive. They really do.
Well, again, I couldn't agree more. And you back on the horse, right? That bringing that energy, but that ability to energize people, and you get people really owning and having pride in their work and this company. And your people are where? I know big operation in San Diego. Yeah,
so I have a team in San Diego, a team in India, a team in Singapore, a team in China, Taiwan, Germany, Cork. They're sprinkled around in the States. I have some members in Romania. I said Germany, some members in Sweden. So they're sprinkled around the kind of Japan, all over the place. And they're fabulous. The tricky part of having a very diverse group all over the place is ensuring that everybody has the same mental model, vision, strategy, understanding. And so a lot of communication has been going on to ensure that if you're in Taiwan or you're in Cork, Ireland, that you understand what we're going after and why it matters and how you're part of it and how you're linked to the bigger vision. Because I can't afford to lose any of them. I want them to be all part of the vision and help us drive the strategy, because it's not a single person. It's the team that's going to push this through.
Yeah. What an exciting day. I mean, I get why you answered the call, right? I mean, you had a great thing going on, but this is big. This is special. This is one of those one of a kind. Speaking of special, we have a lot of passion together around doing tech for good in our communities, and we do the scholarship for TechLX. So, love to give you the ability to gift a seat in that TechLX program to one of your nonprofits that you're involved in. Anybody come to mind?
Yeah. So I love a lot of the nonprofits, and everywhere I've been, I've tried to get involved in some kind of a STEM program. Either when I was living in Memphis or living in Pittsburgh, and now living in San Diego. For me, STEM matters, not because I'm in the industry, but it matters to help give individuals a chance for different things that are out there. There's only going to be so many amazing Michael Jordans. There's only going to be a few of them. But you can be a great doctor or a scientist or a mathematician or an IT person. And so what we're trying to, at least I'm trying to strive for, is ensuring that we grow our children effectively. So I've always been a part of STEM. Recently, when I got to San Diego, I wanted to be part of a bigger STEM program that's there. And Fleet Science Center is in San Diego, and I'm part of the board members. And it's a fabulous organization. If you've ever been to San Diego, I'd recommend you check out the Fleet Science Center. It's amazing because you're helping to teach the children different aspects of science and how things move and change and or are organized. And the Science Center is amazing there. It really is. So I'd love to ensure that they're part of this great opportunity, the Fleet Science Center. I think they would love it.
Outstanding. Yeah, what a great organization. I'm glad we're giving them some great credit, because we got to get the kids excited early, right?
Yeah.
See themselves in this profession.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the Fleet Science Center, like other science centers, we also cater to areas that have probably higher poverty. They don't get the opportunity in schools, science program or math's cut out, or they're not as investing as much in IT. And so a lot of, even for Qualcomm, we donate a lot of laptops, but we're trying to ensure that everybody has access. So everybody has an opportunity to be great.
Yeah. We need them too, right? In this profession, we need that talent.
Yeah, definitely.
Last question for you. I would love to have you think about CIO. If you were to change the I in CIO to better indicate what you do, what we do, how we should, I have so the traditional CIO is Chief Information Officer. And we're information people, but more and more, especially with all the key capabilities we're creating, it's more of an integration officer. Think about like tying a SaaS to a tool set and creating integration, or taking even, I know shadow IT does exist. How do you take the shadow IT and integrate it appropriately so it has better security? And so I've always believed, and I think there's a lot of my peers that think it's a chief integration officer that we're playing. Integrating tool sets, integrating people, integrating capabilities, because that's foundation of what we do. Yeah, it has information, but it's integrating a lot of key capabilities that are needed for an environment. Love it. Love it. Well, I know we're winding down. You and I are going to spend a little more time. We're going to create a blog for CIO.com. That'll be out next week. And we got the Leadership Masterclass, which is going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing.
And you're the closer. You're the closer, so no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Geez.
But thanks so much. Really enjoyed the time always. And
pleasure.
Just want to thank Dave Best and the team at Delphix. We are in their studio here at the Terranea Resort. We got the fireside chat going on. It's a great situation. We got Roden, who's the world-class videographer, photographer. Just appreciate you all. So Until next time, everybody, you stay well.
You've been listening to Tech Whisperers, inside the playbook of the best digital leaders, a Woolette and Associates podcast. Keep connected with us by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast player. If you like what you've heard, please rate the show, as this helps us connect the world's best digital leaders with those who aspire to learn, grow, and thrive in this amazing profession. Thanks for listening. Until next time.